Hi, I'm Kirk. Welcome back to Good Enough Backyard Beekeeping. Today's subject is being a backyard beekeeper profitable? For the majority of you, I'm going to say no. But some of you, yeah. And the big difference between being profitable at this and not is one, mainly being able to keep your bees alive. If you can't keep your bees alive, you're probably buying bees. And if you're keeping them alive, you need to be able to overwinter them and split your hives in the springtime. When you do that, you'll end up with thriving hives that produce honey. And then you'll have two sources of income. You'll have splits or selling nukes and honey. Now, if you can't overwinter your bees, um, keep them alive, you will not be producing honey. Um, you will not have any bees in the springtime to split and sell off nukes. And you're going to find that beekeeping is kind of a money pit. Um, so I'm here to discuss um, how to be profitable at beekeeping as a backyard beekeeper. Let's discuss your first year as being a beekeeper. Well, one is you have to buy your equipment. Um, you have to buy a nuke or maybe two. Maybe you're going to try packages. I like nukes because it gives your bees a head start. They have comb and brood, maybe a little bit of honey, but it's a small established hive. Um, but you can get packages more early in the season, but not what I like to do. But they're cheaper, but you know, I like nukes. Um, when you get these bees, you're gonna have to feed them. So that's buying sugar and there's a lot of learning involved. So you're gonna have to learn to be a beekeeper at this point, and how do you keep them alive? Um, somewhat controversial, but you're gonna have to treat your mites. So one is you're gonna want to test and see if you have mites. Now, you probably are going to have mites. The question is how many, and then what treatments are you going to use? Um, I use formic acid and oxalic acid. Um, formic is a little bit expensive, but it also works. And there's a lot of bad information about formic that it kills your queens. Um, and I haven't experienced that. Um, you need to treat at the right time temperatures. You need to make sure the hive has proper ventilation and that you're not treating a small dying hive. I have treated hives that were dying, and yeah, they didn't do so well. But if you're treating stronger hives that have high mite loads, you'll be fine. Now, oxalic acid. I believe in vaporization. There's a couple ways of doing that out there. One is a wand. I'm a little concerned or nervous about those, that they could actually catch your hive on fire. Not sure if that happens very often, but it seems like putting a very hot wand on underneath your um, frames, maybe wax dripping on it could actually cause a fire. So a little concerning to me, and um, it's a little slower to use than a vaporizer. When I say a vaporizer, Larabi's out there. I have a Jono Easy Vap. Jono doesn't do this anymore. It's too bad because he had a pretty good price too. But Larabi seems to be very popular, but it's expensive. So as a new beekeeper, um, you're going to have to spend a bunch of money, and that's your first year. Just looking at my notes. So the other is learning how to overwinter. That's key because if you can overwinter, you'll have bees in the springtime that you do not have to buy. And then you can start on season two. So your first year, don't plan on getting any honey and don't plan on getting any money. Um, you're going to find that you're going to be spending a bunch of money as opposed to making any money. That's your first year. Okay, let's assume you're a second year beekeeper. You made it through the winter. You at least got one, maybe two hives through the winter, and they're thriving. Congratulations. Now that you have this hive that's thriving, you need to make sure it doesn't swarm. Because if it swarms, now you're going backwards. You have to reestablish the hive, get it built up again. Maybe you've lost the swarm, or if you captured it, you have it back. Personally, I don't have a lot of luck with swarms that I have captured to be thriving hives afterwards. Maybe some have. Hey, I'd love to hear your comments. So comment um, on how you're doing with your swarms. So let's just assume that you got two hives through the winter. So your first year, you bought one nuke. Partway through the year, you split it. This is actually what I did my first year. And the following spring or the end of winter, I ended up with two hives. Now I had two hives. I bought let's say about four or five queens. Now, it's much better to buy queens that are mated as opposed to doing walkaway splits and some of the other methods that are out there. It takes time for the queen to establish, get mated, and actually you're not even sure how well it got mated. And that takes, I want to say, about 9 weeks for all that to happen. So you've lost all that time where your hive is actually declining until your queen gets established, as opposed to buying a mated queen that starts right off the bat within a couple weeks, laying all kinds of brood, and your hive will explode. So now you've done these splits, you end up with probably another five hives because you bought five queens and you were able to split with that. You're going to take two of these nukes that you created from these splits and you're going to sell them. So right there, about $400 of income. Let's say you're going to sell them for $200 a piece. Now you have three other nukes that are yours. Okay. So you started with two hives that you split. You have two nukes that you developed, and you're going to grow these hives. Now, you're really not in a honey production mode at this time on your second year. You will get some honey, but not a lot. So let's just assume, and I'm using my second year experience, I had about 35 pounds of honey. Um, if you do the math, and I just used a rough number of $10 a pound, that's $350 of income now. But it's not pure income. You had to buy the bottles, and so that deducts from your 350. I'd have to go look up some prices. So your first year, you have $400 of income from nukes, 350 from honey sales. So you have about $750 of income now. And guess what? You're still not breaking even. Um, you're going to have to buy some more equipment. So if you did your splits, it would have been nice to split those into nuke boxes. So now you need nuke boxes. You might need another hive stand that you make. Now my hive stands are pretty simple. It's 4x4 lumber up on top of a couple cinder blocks. Um, Rough number, let's just say it cost you $100 to do that. Shouldn't cost you that much, but just for a rough number. So you got about $100 into a hive stand. You're going to need three more new hives to put your nukes in. You can see where this is going. You keep spending and spending, but your income will start to increase. I'm just checking out my notes. So also, you will be learning and you'll keep learning. You'll find out that you never stop learning. And bees are pretty funny about how when you think you got it all figured out, they're going to throw a curve at you and you're going to go, oh no. Um, I've had situations where I've had 10 hives and half of them died all of a sudden because I wasn't keeping up with mite treatments. So at the end of your second year, you now have some income, but you're also spending to accommodate this growing apiary that you have. And you can still do this in your backyard. I do this. I'm in a neighborhood. You can keep the hives very close together and they don't really take up much room. Keep them off to the side somewhere. Have some barriers so that when they come out of their hive, they just fly straight up and out. And your neighbors won't even know you have bees. So let's talk about year three. Okay, you've decided by year three you're liking this. You're enjoying beekeeping, and you're keeping your bees alive. Um, if your bees didn't make it through the winter, you're back to year one. Hopefully, you've learned a little bit, and maybe you can recover. But you're going to find out now you're buying bees again, and this hobby's getting expensive. So let's go with what happened with me. So by year three, um, I had five hives. And as a backyard beekeeper, it's starting to feel like a lot of hives. Um, so springtime comes around, you overwintered five hives, and pat yourself on the back. That's quite an accomplishment when you look at how many people can't get their bees through the winter. And now you have beekeepers that are coming into the springtime wanting to buy bees because they haven't figured out how to overwinter yet. If you have five hives, you can easily make five more nukes out of those. Now, instead of making five nukes, well, I would do this to start off. Make five nukes, get them established, and then do another five more nukes. So you're going to buy five queens, and then a few weeks later, when your hives are recovered from your splits a little bit, buy five more queens and create five more nukes or five more splits. Those first five that you split, they're going to start to grow. Once they get established into a full-blown nuke, you're going to sell them. And let's say you can get $200 a nuke. You're kind of a new person out there on the market. You don't want to ask for premium price. People will pay it though. They get pretty desperate when they're looking for nukes. I get 230. I've built a little bit of reputation, and I don't have enough nukes to sell to everybody. So let's just go with $200 a nuke, and you created five of these for sale. So easy math. That's $1,000 of income now. Okay, just from nukes. You have five hives that now you can start putting honey supers on during the flow, and you've actually split from them too. And they recover pretty quickly from these splits. Want to make sure you keep your mites in check. So you might want to do oxalic acid vaporization. Um, Apparently that's allowed now with honey supers. I tend not to do that, but it's allowed. I don't hit them with formic in the spring. Formic's kind of harsh, but oxalic's a good knockdown before you start the flow. So your mite loads are low. your bees are healthy, and you did your splits. And now, as the season goes on, you have a growing apiary. You actually have 10 hives. Um, Now beekeeping's starting to get a little serious as a backyard beekeeper. Starts to take a little more space up. I have two small areas that I keep my bees in, and but I also keep a barricade around them. I've grown Rose of Sharon. I have one behind my shed. I don't leave them out there so that my neighbors know they're there. And you don't want your bees to be a disturbance. Um, but the splits help. I prevent swarms from happening majority of the time. Sometimes I don't get around to splitting in time, and when your bees swarm, that's a bad thing for your hives. They go backwards. So try to prevent swarms. Get good at doing that. If you find swarm cells, those are splits. Take the swarm cells, put those in a nuke, and you've created another hive. Now, some of you might be saying, I don't want all these bees. Well, those splits you did, sell them. You can keep the number of hives you have down by selling nukes. Um, Here in the Northeast, they're in demand. Um, Most beekeepers will sell out, and it's just getting your name out there, trying to find um, buyers. Facebook was one place, at least for me in Connecticut, that worked well. Um, I think you can do Craigslist. I did some of that at one point that worked okay. Not the greatest, but Facebook, I got replies very fast and had no problem selling my nukes there. So now you have 10 hives. Five of these are building. Don't expect any honey out of them. Your other five hives, you're going to find out that not all of them are going to be big honey producers. Maybe three of them will be out of those five. But you're going to end up all of a sudden with 100 pounds of honey. 100 pounds of honey at $10, that's $1,000. So now you have $1,000 of income from nukes, and you have $1,000 of income from honey. That's $2,000. Now the part is where you really start thinking about this as a business. You might actually start a business at this point, a legitimate one. Um, Talk to a tax person about this, an accountant. They will help you out on how to establish your business. And now all of a sudden you can start using your business for expensing equipment, buying tools. Um, you can buy a compressor for a nail gun to, I use a small brad nailer to assemble my frames. I use a pneumatic hammer for assembling my boxes. Now, when you go to the paint store and buy paint, that's a business expense. So you have $2,000 now that you could go buy bee equipment. Don't go take your $2,000 and go buy a new TV with that. That's different money. That's not your business money. Use your bee income for your bee expenses. And if you have a good accountant, they'll advise you on how to do this properly. And now it actually becomes a tax benefit having a small business. Here in Connecticut, honey is not taxable. So that's a nice benefit of selling honey. But I do pay, well, my customers pay the taxes, but I have to declare the taxes on my nukes when I sell those. Now, there's other things you can say, hey, I can make money making candles. You don't get that much beeswax out of 10 hives. Okay. You're going to find out that you might get a couple pounds out of your wax cappings, but there's not a lot out there. And I don't have a lot of customers looking for candles. Surprisingly, they're pretty nice. They're all beeswax candles, but not many people buying those. There's other products you can make, but you got to be careful that every time you're trying to make one of these other products, you're buying supplies to go make those. So you have to start thinking about this as a business. Are you going to make enough money to cover your expenses to go make this product? Honey's pretty good. Basically, all you gotta do is buy the bottles for that. Assuming that you've already bought an extractor. Now, I've been doing this since 2018, and I still use a two frame hand crank extractor. I have not gone out and bought an electric extractor. So they're fairly inexpensive, probably $100 to $200. You go to an electric extractor and jump up to now you're up to like 700 or so. I kept telling myself that I was going to use my bee money to go buy a bigger extractor. I haven't done it yet. I do advise investing in an oxalic acid vaporizer. If you're saving your bees, you're making money. Okay, just had to check my notes. Um, so year three, you've made about $2,000. Getting pretty close to breaking even now. Maybe you have broke even. Kind of a nice feeling. This expensive hobby is at least paying for itself now. And now you got a lot of bees. Now it becomes the part of how do I keep from growing? I'm doing this in my backyard. I don't want this to get out of hand. Best thing I can tell you is keep splitting your bees. You don't want them flying off into your neighbor's house, establishing a hive in their walls or somewhere else. Yeah, your neighbors will start getting not too happy with you. Um, so end of year three, let's just say you have 10 hives now. You've been feeding them. You've treated for mites. I tend to treat end of the summer, maybe early fall with Formic Pro. It hits them kind of hard, but it also kills the mites. I will hit them again with oxalic acid vaporization around December, maybe even January. Here in Connecticut, we will see a few days in the 50s. Um, that's a good thing as far as treating with oxalic acid. But it also has the bees breaking cluster and eating food. So starvation is something you need to watch out for. So by your third year, you should be getting better at understanding your bees a little better, knowing what a good weight is. And let's assume you're going into the winter with 10 hives. So let's talk about year four. So by year four, you're a you're a bee business, maybe small bee business, but you have customers now that come back. Um, Now you have people begging you for nukes because your nukes were pretty good, and you have repeat honey customers. Now let's say you went into winter with 10 hives, and maybe you lost three of them. Um, Kind of stinks you're losing because you felt like you were getting pretty good at this. Now, I've had years where I've gone into the winter with 15 hives and had only five come out in springtime. But I knew how to split my hives, recover. I didn't go buy nukes or packages. All I did is I bought some queens. By then, I had learned how to create my own mated queens and you become more self-sufficient. So by year four, you should be becoming more self-sufficient. You're an established business now. Um, I have my own web page. Uh, my income pays for my subscription to my website subscriber. I pay my taxes. It's not that hard. I keep a spreadsheet of all of my income and all of my expenses. So literally, I'm just going on to an Excel spreadsheet, and every time I have an income, I put it in there. Every time I have an expense, I put that in another area. And I bring this to my tax guy, and he knows what to do with all that stuff. I'm not going to advise you on tax stuff because I don't know what I'm doing. Um, but I advise getting the professional help. Um, it makes it much more easier for you, and you have the professional advising you the right information. Don't listen to these people on Facebook. So, year four, let's say you have seven hives, seven, 10, really doesn't matter at this point. You have a lot of these. You're going to create five more nukes. If you create a few more, that's even more income. But you have another $1,000 of income um, out of nukes. And you can create some more splits to make up for your losses. If you want to grow this even further, I've had up to 20 hives at one time in my backyard. Um, that's kind of getting to be a lot. Five or 10 is probably more adequate as a backyard beekeeper. But with 10 or 15 hives, now I'm producing 300 or 400 pounds of honey. And at $10 a pound, um, 300 times 10 is $3,000 plus $1,000 a nuke. That's $4,000 of income now. Now, if you can get 400 pounds of honey, um, now you're at $4,000 in just honey sales alone, plus another thousand in nukes. $5,000 of income. Now, if you want, you can buy fancier bottles. But I'm gonna tell you, it's a business. If you're buying fancier bottles, charge more for your honey. Um, I use plastic squeeze bottles. I find it's easier to actually use the product with a squeeze bottle as opposed to a glass bottle. But it's a personal preference, and I have no problem selling my honey in plastic bottles. Now, if you want to upcharge a little higher, use glass bottles because people think it's better, then do it. But just be careful how you spend your money because you can overspend and actually take away from the profit you have. Now, $5,000 of income doesn't mean I have $5,000 of profit. Out of $5,000 of income, I probably only end up with about $1,000 of profit at the end of the year. And you're going, well, where are you spending all your money? I'm buying bottles. I buy in bulk. I'm spending about $300, $400 when I'm buying these bottles. And I only sell three sizes. I have 5 pound bottles, I have 12-ounce bottles, and 2-ounce bottles. And that's all I have. Um, as you increase the variety of what you sell, that increases the amount of money you're spending on the different kinds of bottles. And now you have more inventory you have to sell. Now, if you listen to business people, inventory is not good. Inventory can be damaged, it can be lost. Um, you can actually lose value in inventory. Now, other income, like I said before, the wax, the candles, you get a little bit from there. What I'll do now is I'll create cut comb, so I'll have to have a couple special frames with no foundation or not and nothing in there. I create cut comb, but I also charge quite a bit for those. Um, Not really sure it's worth my effort to do it, but you know what? I have customers asking for it. and they spend a lot. I mean, there are people that are buying cut comb from me for $20 for a 4x4 comb. Now, some people say, why don't you charge more? I actually try to keep my prices down to keep happy customers. And they keep coming back. The other thing I ventured into is creamed honey. Creamed honey isn't really that hard to make. You put seed creamed honey into regular honey, whip it up, and then you try to get it around 57 degrees and charge a premium for that. I sell 12 ounces of whipped honey for $15, and people don't even blink at buying that. They love it. Um, so by year four, you make about $1,000 of profit. Now, year five, you can keep your business running about like that. You have repeat customers. Now I'm at the point where the biggest problems I have is I can't create enough nukes to make all of my customers happy, and I can't produce enough honey so that I have honey ready by the next season, or still have honey by the next season. I sell out my honey. I do not go to market. That's a whole nother expense. You need to pay for a table at a market usually. You might have to have special insurance for these markets. I sell honey right out of my house and it works just fine. Um, Once you become established, word will get out there that you have raw honey, and raw honey is in demand. You can thank Facebook for spreading all kinds of rumors about bad fake honey out there. I don't know how rampant it really is, but that type of publicity actually helps local honey producers. So keep the rumors going, people. Um, Hey, I hope you're having fun with this. Um, I've been doing this for several years now. It's really nice to finally have a hobby that pays for itself. I have done many things. I've been into radio controlled airplanes, woodworking. Every one of these things, I'm spending, spending, spending with no income. I enjoy these things. They're great. Boating, fishing, you know what? Those are all great things to do, but you just keep spending and spending. Finally, beekeeping actually has given me an income that is self-sustaining. Now, part of this is on you. You need to learn how to keep your bees alive. Once you figure that out, you will be successful at being a beekeeper and being able to make a profit. If you can't keep your bees alive, yeah, this is going to be expensive. But it's still fun. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope it was enjoyable. You learned something. Please like and subscribe. Um, Still trying to grow this channel, but boy, it's slow. But not a big deal. This is not my only income. So that's the other thing. Don't go borrow money to become a beekeeper. You will lose money doing that. Um, Try to be self-sufficient in funding your hobby. And if you're smart about it, you'll actually be able to be self-sufficient and be profitable at backyard beekeeping. Okay, you've been sticking with me this long, and let's finish up with just a summary of how you can be a successful beekeeper and make profit at it. Um, First thing, swarm preventions. Don't allow your bees to swarm. You will lose half your bees, you will lose your honey production, and now you have bees flying around the neighborhood looking for a home. Hopefully, not in your neighbor's house. So, swarm prevention, that's a big one. Now, one way of doing that is splitting your hives. Now, the benefit of splitting your hives is you're creating nukes. So, you're either growing your apiary or you're creating an income by creating nukes. So, swarm prevention, first thing. Overwintering. If you can overwinter your bees, now you have bees that can split, and you have bees that are going to produce honey in the springtime. In our area, we have a spring flow, very desirable honey. It's very light in color, and there's your first honey um, production there, or yeah, your first honey harvest that you can have. So, overwintering, very important. Got to get good at that. Treating for mites. Now, a little controversial with some groups that are treatment free. Hey, if you can be treatment free, that's great. But I'm going to tell you, most of the people that are trying to be treatment free probably aren't doing it right. And now they end up losing their bees, and they have to start over again. And the other thing is, they're growing mites, and these mite explosions will actually affect neighboring beekeepers. So be careful if you're going to try to be treatment free. Now, also be smart about how you treat. Okay. I do minimal treatment, but it's been working for me the way I treat, and we can discuss that. Hey, yeah, put some comments in there. Ask me things if you want about running my business. I'm going to answer your questions. So I'll try to get around to answering all your comments. Please comment. And the last one is feeding hives. I find this interesting that this can be controversial. Some people think your bees are being lazy. You know, don't take all their honey. They need to have their honey. Hey, um, feeding your bees is not a bad thing. And it's pretty simple. It's sugar water. Sugar, water. There's a couple other things you can use out there. I literally mix by weight sugar, water, 1 to 1 will stimulate the hive. It'll feed it. 2 to 1, apparently it bulks up the hive. I guess they store it, or maybe they consume that first and then they store their honey. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. I'm not sure if people really know what they're doing. But feeding their hives is not as expensive as people think it is. You can buy a lot of sugar. Um, and like I said before, use your income to go buy these things. So those are the 4 points that I find are probably most important at keeping your bees alive. And hey, put some comments in there. Ask me questions about how I run my business. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and good luck with your bees. Thank you. Bye.